Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. Today, inshallah, we continue with our beautiful book, Al-Khushu' fi Salah, Humility in the Prayer by Imam Ibn Rajab, may Allah have mercy on him. And today we start with the second chapter of the book. And the first chapter perhaps was about khushu' in general, and sometimes he'd go aside from the topic of salah, but in this chapter, Imam Ibn Rajab is going to focus on humility specifically in the prayer. And one of the things that I want to remind myself and my fellow brethren of is one of the main benefits that we want to take from listening to the content of this book, which is the action that follows from listening to what is in this book. So if a person that is not consistent with his prayers, then he listens to some of the meanings that are mentioned, which are in reality the paradise that is in this life, Jannatul Dunya. And this may encourage him to go back to being consistent with his prayer. And if a person does pray, then this perhaps helps us to act upon what is in the book and have more humility in our prayer. And this aspect, which is action, that follows not just having information and knowledge, but action, is so essential. Because like in the book of the Dalaka'i, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he mentioned that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ agreed, consensus, that la imana illa bi'amal wa la amala illa bi'iman. That there is no faith, you're not a Muslim to start with, without action. So just information, just speech, even if it's correct, is not enough for salvation. Rather, there must be action. And on the other hand as well, if a person doesn't have the proper beliefs and the sayings, then he will not go to paradise just by the actions, because his actions are not nullified. So the point is, the importance of action following from the knowledge that we read from Ibn Rajab rahimahullah. So Ibn Rajab says, Allah the Most High has legislated different types of worship that would allow khushu' to develop on the bodies, which in turn arises from the khushu' of the heart, its meekness and its brokenness. So Ibn Rajab here, he's saying that there's many worships that make a person have khushu', that make a person display khushu' to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which in turn are a result of the khushu' that's in the heart. But now he's going to mention the greatest display of khushu' is the salah, the prayer that a person prays. Ibn Rajab continues, the greatest action of worship which manifests the khushu' of the body to Allah is the prayer, salah. Allah has praised those who have khushu' in the prayer with His words, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, those who are humble in their prayer. That is the meaning of those who are humble in their prayer. Those who are humble and meek in their prayer, not knowing who is standing to their left and right. You might recall from the beginning of the book that we said the definition of khushu' has two pillars. That khushu' includes that which is in the heart and that which is on the outside. And that which is in the heart includes many meanings. And one of them is, we are informed of it by this narration. And this is one of the narrations from the Tabi'in, Hakim ibn Utayba. And that is al-ikhlas. That part of khushu' is that you only seek Allah's pleasure in your prayer. To the point where a person is so concerned about pleasing Allah, he's not caring. He doesn't even know who's to his right and to his left. So this is one of the meanings in khushu', which is you have to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He continues, explaining the ayah, those who are humble in their prayer, and neither looking here or there, due to their humility before Allah, mighty and magnificent. That's the outside part. But also we learn another meaning that is part of khushu' here, which is al-haya' min Allah, being shy of Allah. That's why you lower your gaze when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, one of the things that I want to emphasize, I've mentioned it before, but it's very important, that Ibn Rajab consistently reminds us of, is the fact that it is so essential for us to understand the ayahs of the Quran by the understanding of the earlier generations. I cannot follow Islam unless I follow the understanding of the earlier generations. That's why you find every ayah Ibn Rajab mentions, he mentions who from the righteous predecessors explained it to mean this meaning. And that's demonstrated in the next ayah that he's going to talk about. Ibn al-Mubarak said, on the authority of Abu Ja'far, on the authority of Layth, that Mujahid said concerning the ayah saying of Allah, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand in obedience to Allah. And before we go to the explanation of Mujahid, Mujahid is a central figure amongst the Tabi'in in tafsir. He was the student of Ibn Abbas. And as in As-Sunnah al-Khallal, Mujahid, he studied the Quran with Ibn Abbas to the point where he covered the Quran 3 times. Every time, he'd stop Ibn Abbas at every single ayah, ask him what the meaning of it was. So Mujahid, when he's mentioned over and over again, when it comes to the tafsir of the Quran, there's a reason for that. So Mujahid said about the statement of Allah, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand in obedience to Allah. Qunut, obedience here, means to stand calmly with khushu', to lower the gaze and still the limbs from the awe of Allah, mighty and magnificent. And here we see a third meaning that is part of khushu', which is ta'limullah, which is for you to, in your heart, testify to the greatness, that there's no one greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which makes me be more humble before Him in this prayer. He also said, meaning Mujahid, and this is the last statement, inshallah, we'll mention today. He also said, and this statement, I would urge, focus on it. Perhaps I won't comment too much on it, but he's going to describe how the companions were in their salah, in this statement. Mujahid also said, when any of the people of knowledge stood for prayer, he would be in such awe of the All-Merciful, the Mighty and Magnificent, that his gaze would not swerve, not move for a second. He would not look here and there. He would not play with stones or do any frivolous action, right? Not play with anything, right? And not do any frivolous action or talk in himself, even in himself. He wouldn't talk about anything related to the world unless out of forgetfulness, which is something that happens from every person, any that occurs from a person. But when focused, not talk about anything except out of forgetfulness. So that was how the companions were. That was how they had khushu', humility in their salah. So may Allah help us be like them. Subhanallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you so much for listening.